everyone, my name is Jackie and today I'm here with my book haul and wrap up of March. I bought some books and I've read 11 books in total in March, so I will go really quick through my book haul so that I have a little bit more time for my wrap up. So let's just start it. The first book I bought in March is The Forbidden Wish by Jessica Khoury. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's an Aladdin retelling and it was the book that was included in the very first FairyLoot box. The next book I bought was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This was also in a FairyLoot box. It was the first anniversary FairyLoot box. The next book is Tower of Dawn by Sarah J Maas, the 6th book in their Throne of Glass series, which I haven't read yet, but I'm very excited to get to it. Next I bought 2 books for a readathon. I bought Magnus Chase and the Hammer of Thor by Rick Riordan and The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. And the last book I bought was the FairyLoot book of this month, which is State of Sorrow by Melinda Salisbury. So the first book I finished in March is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. This book is about Jacob, whose grandfather dies, and he decides to go to the island where his grandfather lived during the Second World War in a children's home. And there he discovers that all these fantastic stories that his grandfather used to tell are true. He discovers all these peculiar children who have special powers. The book is written around these very old photographs, which sometimes look really creepy. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. This is the 3rd book in the Mortal Instruments series, and it's about a girl named Clary who discovers that she is part of the world of Shadowhunters, who are demon hunters actually. I can't really give you a synopsis to the 3rd book because I don't want to spoil you, but I enjoyed reading it very much. It was like the 1st and the 2nd book, also a reread for me, but it was the first time I read it in English and I'm very glad that I did because I enjoyed it much more in English, so I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read because the internet was raving about it because the movie is coming out, or did come out last month in the US, but it's a few months till I can see it, but it is Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I read this book in one go. I couldn't stop, I laughed, I cried, I loved this book so much. I love Simon's friends and his family, and I love Blue. Blue is just so perfect. It's a very great book, and I gave this book, of course, 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. And to be honest, if this wasn't included in the last FairyLoot box, I wouldn't have picked it. I wouldn't have read it. But I'm very glad that it was in the last FairyLoot box because it is a very great book. I loved it very much. It's a dark fairy tale, you could say. It has a little bit of Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, it's about a girl named Alice whose grandmother dies and her mother is abducted. The grandmother was this author of dark fairy tales, and it looks like her mother was abducted by one of these creatures from these fairy tales. So she has to find her. I enjoyed this book very much and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Glittering Court by Richelle Mead. This is about a girl. She is a lady and she doesn't want to be because she has to marry for money because her family has no money left. So instead she goes to the Glittering Court, which usually only contains of girls from lower social status who are made into ladies and then are shipped to the new continent where they can marry rich men. But she goes to this Glittering Court and wants to go to the new world. It reminded me a lot of books like The Selection or The Jewel at the beginning, but that's really only the beginning. It's sometimes a little rushed because it tells everything that happens in the course of a year, so I think even a little bit more than a year, so it's a little bit rushed. but I still enjoyed it very much, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I listened to as audiobook. It was also a reread, but it was my first audiobook in quite a while because I normally don't like audiobooks. It took me years to find an audiobook that I enjoyed. So I listened to Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas, which I've read now 3 times in just 6 months, I think, because I loved it so much. It's about a huntress named Feyre who kills a wolf in the woods, but then discovers it was a fairy, and to pay for what she did, she has to come to the land of fairies. There she lives at the Court of Springs with the High Lord Tamlin. This first one is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I enjoyed it very much, also by reading the 3rd time. But because of things happening in the next 2 books, I can't give it 5 stars anymore, so I have to give it 4.5 out of 5, which is still pretty good, and I very much love this first book, despite me loving the 2nd and the 3rd more. The next book I read in German. The German title is Die unerklärliche Logik meines Lebens. The original title is The Inexplicable Logic of My Life by Benjamin Alire Sands. It's about Salvador and his 2 friends and just their life. It's a very character-driven book. There's not much plot there. It starts with the beginning of their senior year in high school, and it's just about the changes in him and thinking about his mother who died when he was a baby, and his birth father, if he wants to meet him, if he is more like his birth father or more like his adoptive father. So it's a lot of questions about life in this book. Because it is more character driven and quite thick, at least in German, it's very slow to read, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. I didn't love this book, which could be because I read it in German, because I discovered that some books just work better if they are read in the original language. But I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is The Forbidden Wish by Jessica Khoury. As I said, this is an Aladdin retelling. It's told from the perspective of the genie, which is a girl called Zara. I like this book very much. I love Aladdin, I love the Disney movie. I love that the genie in here is a girl and that it's her perspective from which it's told, and I love the portrayal of Aladdin. I really like him a lot. There were some unexpected turns because my only source for the story till today was the Disney movie, so I didn't expect everything that happened in there. Don't know how in the original story it is. Yeah, but I enjoyed it very much, so I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I also heard a lot about on the internet, but I never intended to pick it up until my book club decided we have to read it. So I read the German edition. The German title is Kleine Feuer überall. The English title is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. So yeah, the internet was full of this book and everyone loved it. And it took me a long time to get into it, to understand why everyone loves it, because actually it isn't my kind of book. It's not something I usually enjoy to read a lot. So it took me nearly a week to read the first 50 pages, but then I flew through it. It's about 2 families in this kind of perfect neighborhood, just about their lives, a lot about their children, but also the parents. So after the first 50 pages I enjoyed it very much, but still it took me so long to get into it, and normally I wouldn't have done it, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was also for this book club. It's called Die Stadt der weißen Musiker by Bakhtiar Ali. I can't even pronounce the original title, but in English the title would be something like The City of White Musicians, I think. This is the second book by Bakhtiar Ali I've read. His books are very slow. There's not really that much that happens. They're a little fairy tale-esque, but not the Grimm fairy tales or other fairy tales that we know. But it's just the whole feeling of the book, the whole mood of the book. It's very hard to describe, really. And this book is about a man named Jaladat, who is a musician, and it's actually just his life, and I can't really tell much more about this because it's too complicated. So I give this book a 3 out of 5 stars. And the last book I finished in March is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This was also a book I wasn't sure if I wanted to pick it up, but I just loved it so much after I did. It's about a boy named Laszlo Strange who is fascinated with the mysteries of this city called Weep, and one day he gets the chance to go there and discover all the secrets, and it's so good. I can't believe I waited this long to read it, and now I can't wait for the second one. I flew through this book, so I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So these were the in total 11 books I read in March. I'm very excited that there were so many books that I liked that much. I think it's funny because I think the most stars I gave to all the books that were anytime in the FairyLoot boxes. So FairyLoot does a very great job at picking books for their boxes. I'm very excited about that. So yeah, that's everything for today. Okay, that's everything for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have you read any of the books I have read? Please let me know in the comments. I would like to talk to you about it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!